Lance Stroll has been the laughingstock in the sport for quite some time now, but what he did in Brazil has likely surprised even some of the greatest haters of the Canadian driver. Going off the track in the formation lap and then failing to return because you've beached the car while having plenty of asphalt to run on is very much an amateurish thing for an F1 driver, and the question has now arisen. Is the time finally here for Aston Martin to get rid of Lance? And if so, who would be his best replacement? It's safe to say that Lance Stroll's actions in Brazil have caught many by surprise, and we're not talking about the Q2 crash that saw his car being wrecked in turn 3. We're talking about the race and the formation lap where he spun out of the circuit and then went on to beach the car in the sand. While doing this, the fans were chanting the name of the reserve driver in Aston Martin, Felipe Drugovich, who is also a Formula 2 champion and is Brazilian himself. So to say that Lance was humiliated is a real understatement. Be that as it may, the Canadian driver explained the blunder, and when talking about it, he said, "As soon as I touched the brake, I just had a huge rear lock, and then I was a passenger from there. I've never felt that in the car, so maybe there was a brake failure problem and we have to look into it. For sure, in a race like this, anything is possible, so to be out on the formation lap really sucks, but we have to look into what happened." Of course, the car hasn't been something to boast about either, as the Silverstone-based team has now struggled to understand a lot about the upgrades that are mounted on the AMR24, but with their eyes set on the future and with Alonso stating that he doesn't have any intention to leave, big changes are waiting for Aston Martin in the drivers' lineup. Adrian Newey is very unlikely to be willing to work with the son of the owner of the team because he has been on the winning side of things for so long, and of course he would want to continue on that path as soon as he arrives at Aston Martin, with the Brit starting his job on the 1st of March 2025. On the other hand, we have Honda, a team who have their own driver currently racing for Racing Bulls, and while many are relating Tsunoda to a potential Red Bull seat and a replacement for Perez, this is very unlikely to happen because we've seen that the Austrian team is paying a lot of attention to Lawson and to other candidates as well, such as Colapinto. Be that as it may, the threat for Lance is now really big because the situation has reached levels that are unsustainable. The car's predictability has got worse, and Lance is one of the most volatile drivers on the grid, driving without passion and never feeling the pressure of having to perform better because of his seat being at risk. This is probably not his fault because he was put in this position by his father Lawrence, who stated loud and clear that the situation in Aston Martin regarding his son won't change as long as he's the man who's leading the team. What this means is that Lance has entered into a comfort zone and safe bubble that is very unlikely to be popped, because when you have the support of your father, who is the owner of your team, who can go against his will? But with the arrival of the power trio consisting of Newey, Cowell and Cardile, there is no doubt that they will want to push the limits to the team to the greatest extent, and there is no doubt that Lance will be the weak link in that mission. We can't question the integrity of Alonso because he's a man who has been devoted to this sport and will continue to be so while he can, but he will need a second strong partner if the team is to compete in the Constructors' Championship from 2026 onwards. As of now, a strong candidate is Max Verstappen, because even though the performance in Brazil has likely secured the 4th championship for the Dutchman, there is something that we keep missing about Red Bull. They are 3rd in the Constructors' Championship, and Max cannot always bet on red flags to save his races apart from the masterclass that he's shown on the grid in Interlagos. Helmut Marko has spoken about the future of Verstappen, and when talking about it, he ignited rumours that the situation needs to improve sooner rather than later, because with all the latest movements that have happened in Aston Martin, they are now a significant threat to take away the 3-time world champion. Furthermore, the veteran Austrian said, "Max drives where he can win. Aston Martin has the most modern factory. The wind tunnel will be operational next year, and Honda engines will be added to that. Everything fits." And if you look at history, it is clear wherever Newey has gone, there has been an upward trend. I don't know know why it should be any different at Aston Martin. Verstappen knows he can win titles with us too if we can get through this World Championship now. Newey cannot start his work until the 1st of March in 2025, which is already relatively late. The whole team at Aston Martin certainly needs to get used to each other first. And the connection between Honda and Tsunoda will always be something that we can count on in terms of Tsunoda signing a contract with the team that will supply Aston Martin exclusively with engines from 2026 onwards. Although Red Bull will have a test with Tsunoda after the Abu Dhabi finale as agreed with Honda, the hot and cold relationship that was poised on the Austrian team by the Japanese manufacturer has now made it a bit hard for them to promote someone from Honda's academy, but not from their own circle of drivers. Be that as it may, Horner has emphasised that Tsunoda will be given a chance to prove himself at the end of this year and to see whether or not he can do what he does best, prove people wrong about his mentality and speed. And when talking about the test, the team principal of Red Bull said, "Yuki is a member of the junior team and it's something that we have discussed with Honda. He will test the car at the tyre test following the conclusion of the season, and it's something that has been agreed upon for quite some time. It will again be good to give him a run and get the opportunity to work with Red Bull racing engineers and see how he performs in a Red Bull racing car." However, Horner has emphasised the importance of having Lawson in their family for a longer period of time because he has now seen a lot of potential in the Kiwi driver. He has scored 2 P9 positions in 2 outings with the Faenza Bay squad, and the first one in Austin was quite impressive as he started from P19. With the temper that Tsunoda has, it will be interesting to see whether or not Red Bull would be ready to invest in him, but it's safe to conclude that their interests lie somewhere else, which just further opens up the door for Yuki to look for a seat outside of the Red Bull family. And yes, we do need to talk about Drogovic because while he hasn't been mentioned that much in the past couple of years, he's a driver who's won Formula 2 by storm, and ever since he signed with the Silverstone based squad, his potential has kind of diminished a bit due to the limited time that he has on the track. Drivers like Piastri, Schumacher and very likely Bortoletto are ones that have received a chance in Formula 1 after winning the Formula 2 championship, and ignoring the talents of Felipe is definitely something that Aston Martin would have to think about as to whether or not it's smart to do now that the wave of young drivers is showing what they can do on the grid. All of this is making the situation in Aston Martin very interesting because they're now facing some very tough challenges ahead of them. They need a strong pair of drivers to give the best possible feedback to the engineers, as that part has been solved by signing some high-profile members and continuing to add more depth in the engineering field. With Newey having more hands-on jobs in Aston Martin and with Honda being present from 2026 onwards, do you think that a reunion with some of the current Red Bull affiliated drivers will happen? And if so, which driver do you think it will be? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're interested in the biggest upcoming F1 transfers for 2025, check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.